Hi, Andrew Crosby here from Novaflex. Today we're going to give you a short demonstration on how to change the primary seals on Novaflex HDC hose units or couplers and tank units or adapters. Here we have a 2-inch hose coupler and a 3-inch adapter, simply because there's a bit more room at the back. You can more readily see what's going on. To perform this service, you'll need the dedicated Novaflex HDC hose unit or coupler service tool. There's one of these required specific to each size. You'll also need a tube to compress the spider assembly at the rear of the adapter or the tank unit, a standard set of straight-nosed circlip pliers, a small selection of O-ring manipulation tools, and some grease. Okay, we'll try the hose coupler first. You'll require the dedicated HDC service tool for this. Place the 3 ears to the right hand side of the rollers. Rotate the tool clockwise until the slots in that component you can see there line up with the 3 rollers. Then simply give it a small jiggle and pull the internals out as a complete cassette package, thus. You can perform this next task without disassembling the internal components, but just for ease to show you, we're going to do that anyhow. The 2 internal axles and rollers are removed. The spring washer pack is removed. This seal here can stay in place for now. The piston guide is then taken to this point here, at which point it can revolve within the main component and allow it to slide away thus. We then have the piston exposed easily so that we can remove the O-ring seal. To remove the seal, take a sharp tool. It's easier to pierce the center of the O-ring. The O-ring is going to be discarded anyhow. So pierce the center of the O-ring, lift the seal out of the groove, thus, and then peel the seal from around the O-ring groove like this. To change the front nose seal, this is the seal that forms the sealing between the coupler, the hose unit, and the tank unit adapter. Again, pierce the seal, lift from its groove, and take that seal away. The next job is to thoroughly lubricate both of the O-rings. So if you can apply the dedicated or appropriate grade of grease to each of the O-rings over all of the surface of both O-rings, such, make sure they're completely and adequately coated. This is to allow the O-rings to sit properly and easily within the O-ring grooves. Next, take the appropriate O-ring and place in the top of the front facing the nose O-ring groove, and make sure it's evenly placed and depress either side, making sure it's even at all times and there's no rolling of the O-ring as you press it into the groove. Once you have it at 90 and 180 degrees, continue around, pressing the seal into the groove until it's all contained evenly within the groove. Press it all round to even this out, and it should look like that. Next, we tackle the piston seal. This is a little more tricky, mainly because the O-ring groove is actually very, very tight, so that it retains the O-ring in situations of very, very high flow. Effectively stretch the O-ring over the piston, place it within the confines of the groove so it just sits on the outside of the groove. Then take a hooked or a curved tool such as this one here. Again, we're going to be providing some of these in a dedicated seal kit. Carefully place the hook behind the seal and then move it all the way around the periphery like this. This is making sure that the O-ring has not rolled and is sitting evenly around the groove. Once that is completely even, remove the tool. Then we start by pressing the O-ring into the groove in one position. Now this does take a little bit of time and a bit of effort to achieve. Thus, and you can see, hopefully you can see that it's pinched at this point here. Do exactly the same at 180 degrees. Again, a little bit of effort is required to achieve this, and you can see it sits into the groove there. Then revolve through 90 degrees and do the same again according to both sides, and keep on doing this. It takes a little bit of time. Keep on doing this all the way around the piston periphery. Once you've placed the O-ring evenly into its groove all around the groove, be sure to compress it and spin it in your hand at the same time to make sure that the seal is sitting nice and evenly around the piston. It should look like that. If we were performing a full service, of course, we would lubricate all of the internal components as per the service instructions, but for now, as we're only changing the primary seals, we'll simply reassemble the internal component cartridge, which is simply a reverse of the procedure which I showed you earlier. Reinstate the wavy washer pack, reinstate the rollers and axles, and the internal component pack complete should look like this. Once the internal components are assembled, simply line the two internal rollers up with the grooves inside, place back into the hose unit body. You'll already see it's starting to rotate itself. This time we're turning anti-clockwise with the ears of the tool to the right hand side of these three lugs here, and we rotate anti-clockwise until those three lugs sit underneath the three rollers as such. And there you go, you're ready to go. Okay, now how to remove the piston from the tank unit or adapter. The piston is secured by a spring and a spider assembly, which is further secured to the body via an externally expanding circlip. We may need to revolve this internal spider until you can see both hooks of the circlip visible in this reveal section of the casting here. There we are. Hopefully you're picking that up, but I have taken a photograph of this area so that you can see it a little bit more clearly. You can see the two hooks of the circlip exposed here. Okay, the next bit's a little bit difficult to do and film whilst holding the tank unit at an angle, unfortunately, but I'm inserting the circlip pliers into the hooks I'm collapsing the circlip until it's completely tight. Then I'm just giving the internals a bit of a wiggle, and out they come. There's the spring, there's the spider assembly, and I can now go in and remove the main piston to expose the seal that we're going to change. Same sequence with the seal removal of the on the tank unit piston. Take a sharp tool, pierce the O-ring, lift it out of the groove, thus, and then remove the seal from the O-ring groove completely, like this. Again, in order to ease replacement of the O-ring in the tank unit groove, we need to completely and thoroughly lubricate the surface of the replacement O-ring, thus. Okay, replacement of the piston seal is the same as it was in the hose unit. Roll the O-ring to the outside of the piston groove. Then take the hook tool, very carefully insert it behind the O-ring, making sure not to damage the O-ring. Once that's hooked behind, then move around the outside of the piston, thus, and this is just to make sure that there's no twist in the O-ring and that the material is placed evenly around the groove circumference. Once you've done that, start by pressing the O-ring into the groove at one point, like this. Then move 180 degrees opposite and do the same again, like this. And then continue to do that in equal measures across the piston head around the periphery of the piston until the seal is located evenly within the groove. It takes a few minutes to press the seal evenly into the groove all the way around, but once you've finished, make sure there's no lumps or bumps, and it should look like this. To reassemble, take the piston and place it carefully into its seat within the coupling housing, making sure that it's lined up with the stem as vertical as possible by eye. Then add the spring, then making sure that the hooks of the circlip are within this reveal here. Place the spider onto the spring assembly, thus. Then take the circlip pliers, place them into the hooks, close the circlip. Then you will require this tube. Place it over the spider assembly, push the whole thing into the housing until it lines up with the flange of the tank unit body. Then just manipulate slightly like that until you see the circlip spring into its groove and secure the spider. Thus, this is exactly how it should look, with the hooks separated, which indicates that everything has sprung back into its groove. And that's it. As a general note, you should always pressure test and function check the couplings before you place them back into service. Again, refer to your instruction manual on how to achieve that. Thank you for watching.